Hello folks, Abfielder here with another Minecraft tutorial, and today's subject is the Nether tunnel. And what my plan is for this tutorial is to show you how to take a plain, kind of dull, boring looking Nether tunnel like this and come up with something, well, just a little bit more spectacular, something where your friends look at it and go, wow. And to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about here, these are some of the designs that I've used on the Strangecraft server that I've come up with and built. And this particular design is the one to my original base on the Strangecraft server, so it was done early in the survival world stage, so I didn't have a huge amount of resources to play with. This particular one was for a fellow stranger called Carnage, and it was based sort of loosely off a design he had in his base. Another stranger, Catch, who has a very diorite andesite and prismarine look going on. Then we have one that I did for Cyber, and this one, yeah, I really like this one. I've done some Let's Play videos on all three of those tunnels, and I highly recommend you check them out. And lastly, this is one I did for a Halloween project, and still one of my favorites. I absolutely love this tunnel. So yeah, like I said, the purpose of this tutorial is to kind of what goes through my head when I want to build a Nether tunnel. How can you kind of replicate that in your world without giving you an actual template? What steps can you go through to make your own cool Nether tunnels? And folks, before we just get into that tutorial, just a polite reminder, please consider subscribing to my channel. At the time of recording this video, I'm 8 subscribers away from the magic 100 figure that I've been aiming for. And as a little push, I've done a video, link will be down in the description, whereby I'm telling you that I'll build a new building on this base. It's going to be a museum with some of the exhibits from the Strangecraft server. The building will be dedicated to a random commenter on that video, and as well, if they have a Minecraft skin, a Java Minecraft skin, I will get that head into the museum and it will be a permanent exhibit in the museum. So like I say folks, please consider subscribing. I would really appreciate that. So the first stage I wanted to talk about was planning, and I've created myself a little area here where we can build our Nether tunnel in this tutorial, and I want to talk about the planning phase. So there's a couple of things to consider when you're planning. One is how long your tunnel's actually going to be, where the start and the end points are. The next is kind of the minimum width, minimum heights, or the actual heights, actual widths you want. The other thing you'll see I do a lot in my Nether tunnels is repeating patterns. So even in this plain boring design, there is a repeating pattern of 5 cobblestone blocks and those torches. So I'm going to do something similar here. I'm going to give myself a free width to walk down, and then I'm going to give myself 5 blocks in between each one of these oak logs that I'm placing down, and do that as a repeating pattern all the way up to my Nether portal. Generally speaking, you can move your Nether portal just a little bit and it won't affect its usage if you need to do that just to, you know, get it all to match up. Otherwise you do get left with some little bits that you kind of have to make work. One thing I want to talk about while I do this is the width and height of my tunnels. I always go for a minimum of 3x3, and the reason for this is simply that's the smallest height and width tunnel that I can easily fly down without causing myself too many headaches in terms of crashing. So there we go folks, kind of stage number 1 when it comes to planning out a tunnel. Next thing I'm going to do is increase the height of these pillars. These pillars are going to form the basis of my tunnel. Everything that I do with this tunnel will kind of lead on from here. So I want to give myself plenty of height to work with, and I'm going to show you why shortly when we do the floor. So I'm back in the boring tunnel. I wanted to point out 2 problems with this tunnel. Firstly, it's the fact that it's just flat. The pillars and the wall are all at the same kind of depth. The roof, same problem. Floor, the same problem. There's actually a second problem I want to talk about with the floor of this thing, and that's that it's not spawn proof. Generally speaking, I always try and use carpet or slabs in my Nether tunnels to make sure they are spawn proof, and that's one of the reasons that we up the height of the pillars in our new tunnel. Okay, so onto the floor then, you'll notice I have 2 blocks in my inventory. I have the cobblestone and the stone brick. Now in the plain tunnel, we just have cobblestone. What I want to do with the cool Nether tunnel that we are building in this tutorial is show you how we can use just some alternative blocks just to make the floor or the whole tunnel just much more interesting. But I wanted to use simple blocks that are easy to get in a survival world, so stone brick and cobblestone. And like I said, I'm using slabs to make it spawn proof, and the other thing you may have noticed here is that I'm placing stone slabs or stone brick slabs in between the log blocks, which will make my tunnel slightly wider. It means that wherever I bring the wall down now, I'm not going to be bringing it down in line with the oak logs. I'm going to be making that bit wider. I'm going to be making some variance in the depth of my tunnel. So you can see how I'm doing that already without having put up a wall. That's going to make our tunnel much more interesting to look at. So there we go, that's finished. And I reckon That looks better. It certainly looks better than it did before. I think we can make it more interesting. So let's replace every 5 blocks where we've got these oak logs. Let's replace the stone brick with cobblestone and do all the way up like so. And again, it just breaks up that floor just a little bit more. It's still the exact same color or very similar color. It just looks a lot more interesting, I think. So just consider how you can make your floors just a little bit more interesting by doing little things like that. How you can break it up and still have that repeating pattern. So the next step of this process is for building up the walls. So how do we take this floor and then build up the walls? Well, in this instance, I'm going to use polished andesite stairs. Stairs work really well. Now I'm going to keep this tunnel narrow, so it's only going to have the one step, but you could use stairs to kind of build out the walls and have quite a wide, interesting wall. But yeah, like I say, just in this one, polished andesite stairs, it's a nice way to. You could also use slabs to start to build up the wall. But what we're going to do behind these steps is bring out the wall, and we're going to be using stone blocks for that. But for now, we also want to have a look at the pillars because it looks a bit odd. We're not going to use steps behind the pillars. We're actually going to block off the Minecraft player's view down each one of these sections. Depending on your tunnel, you could use, for instance, fence posts are quite good. And that way you can see all the way down. It's similar to what I did in Carnage's tunnel. But yeah, here we'll use andesite blocks because I think this will work quite well. Like I said, I want to keep this tunnel quite narrow. I'm imagining it in my head that this is an early game kind of build. You haven't got too much in the way of blocks to use, and you just want to keep it as simple as possible, but as cool looking as possible. And this is how I'm choosing to do it. Also, I think we'll probably end up knocking a little bit of height off these oak logs. It is a little bit high. It looks a little bit too thin. So there we have it. Now we want to build up the walls some more. So one of the problems I said with the original tunnel was that it was too flat, and I want to show you a little trick here for adding extra depth to a wall without increasing the size of the tunnel. And the way I'm going to do that is by using the cobblestone wall here, and then I'm going to interlace it with just the plain stone bricks, and I'm going to show you how that's going to create more depth in our wall. So I'm going to just put some stone bricks over the top. I'm now mirroring what I've done at the bottom of this wall. You'll see shortly. And what I'm going to do is bring down the stone bricks like this, and you'll see that the wall, the cobblestone wall, joins the stone brick, and then it creates this extra depth in the wall that we wouldn't normally have if we used full blocks. And like I said, the last thing I'm going to do here is mirror what we've done at the bottom, because that generally looks really cool. We'll have some upside down stairs, and just look how cool that looks. Now, we are in the Nether. It's probably going to be dark, so we can now also light that up. That gives us a little bit of extra depth, lights up our build, and also looks really, really cool. How cool does that look compared to our original design? Looks awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that all the way down in these sections. So I've finished putting all the walls in, and that is just looking super cool. Just imagine walking down here in the Nether. That just looks awesome. And at the end of this video, I will give you just a couple more kind of tips for longer tunnels. We just need to fix up this portal. I don't like it when you can see the obsidian, so I tend to put the obsidian down below the level of the slab. We also, with this particular build, just need to raise up the obsidian by 1 level. And just to kind of finish it off, I'm going to grab those andesites upside down stairs and just put some there as well. And that looks really, really cool. It looks like it was kind of, you know, meant to be. And we can go ahead, we built those log pillars just 1 block too high for this particular build. We've still got the roof to do, obviously. And I'm just going to go ahead and use just stone just to block up the back of this pool. Doesn't really matter in this particular build, you're not going to see it. In some of my tunnels, you'll see I have, my tunnel just stops with the portal. In others where I might want to come off that, I have a nether portal room, which just follows the similar design principles to what I've done here. But this looks super, super cool. So all we've got left to do now is the roof. So then the roof, folks, spoiler alert, this is actually the second design I did. I did 1 clip or 1 recording, and I didn't like what I did with the roof. I kept it too flat. So I actually went back and just had a look at it, and that's a tip that I can give you, is that if you build something you don't like it, it's Minecraft, tear it down, go again. It might just be small modifications you need, it might be massive ones here. So what I'm going to do is add just a tiny bit more depth into this roof instead of having it flat. So you can see I'm using oak panels. I've introduced yet another block into my my design palette, and I'm about the limit that I would like to sort of do in most builds, about 5 or 6 different kind of blocks. And as you can see, I am just going down the sides here, leaving a gap in the middle, and I'll show you why that is in a second. Okay, here we go. So what I'm going to do now is grab the cobblestone slab. We've used cobblestone everywhere else. I'm going to block that off, otherwise I'll have a weird gap. And then, as you can see, I'm just doing a top half slab. So the bottom half adds some depth into this roof, except right at the end there. And that looks really, really cool. It finishes off the build. It almost looks like that cobblestone is for kind of structure to give it strength. And this tunnel just looks so, so cool. I really should light that portal, but I haven't got a flint and steel in my inventory at this moment in time. So let's just go back, I think, to our original tunnel. Here we go. And look how plain and boring that is. I mean, we can fly down. It is not the worst tunnel I have ever seen, just because we broke it up with those oak logs. And then compare it to this tunnel, which just looks an absolute million times better. So folks, I have just one more building tip. I hope you've liked this tutorial. My last building tip is to be careful with stuff that's hanging down, like having lanterns hanging down like this. It's not actually too bad in this tunnel. We've got a fairly high ceiling, but if you have slabs, like blocks coming out like that, and lanterns, when you fly along with your elytra in survival, you're probably going to hit them. That's going to get annoying. So if you're going to have stuff hanging down, try and have high ceilings. Otherwise, just try and keep your ceilings fairly smooth, and that'll make your elytra flying experience much, much better. Folks, I hope you found this tutorial useful. This is the first ever building tutorial I have done, so let me know what you think down in the comments. If you do go on to use this tutorial and build some cool nether tunnel designs, then maybe consider going over to my Twitter page, abfildermc, and sharing those designs with me. That'd be really, really cool. And if you have enjoyed this tutorial and found it useful, then please like the video and consider giving the channel a subscribe. Folks, I'm Abfielder. That's all I've got time for. Goodbye.